precious metals are really, in my mind, one of the only places to safely put your money. And it's not about return on it, it's about return of it. And yes, if you own enough gold and silver, you may be wealthy, but that's not why you buy it. I think gold and silver are wealth. And yeah, you own enough, you'll be wealthy. But that's not why you buy it. You buy it, I think, right now to get out of the way of the demolition of the world reserve currency. And I think that's coming. I really, truly believe the dollar is going to experience not only major competition globally for its reserve. The demand for silver has really been game-changing. It has really been the main thrust of what everyone in the industry is looking for. And I think it's very hard to not notice the value found in silver when you are open to looking at it. You know, the mainstream is more or less still completely void of any participation in hard assets. And although I think there will come a time when they will indeed have no choice but to look at what hard assets bring to the table, at this point, what you have seen is a renaissance in silver demand from the pimple on the elephant. Retail demand in 2022 was more or less unlike anyone in the industry has ever witnessed. Interestingly enough, and emblematic of the name of the company you represent, the majority of all of the demand that we saw in 2022 and in 2021, and really going all the way back to 2020, kind of emblematic of this renaissance in silver demand. It literally was probably 95% or greater in silver. Interesting times. There has been a little greater demand lately for gold, but over the last 3 years, Patrick, the demand for silver is off the charts, and it's 4 or 5x of anything that anyone in this industry has ever done. At least 2022 was. And the elephant is still fully invested in equities and in bonds and in real estate and in believing that the road to retirement is traditionally paved with traditional assets like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and whatnot. But I will simply say to you that we've seen an expansion, but the real stark difference is the massive demand for silver. One of the things that I found most interesting about 2022 was the United States Mint calling us in June or July of the year. Now, we're one of only 27 authorized resellers in the world, and telling us that they were going to curtail production of gold, eagles, and buffaloes by 50% heading into the second half of the year, which really made no sense to us. And so you had high premiums on gold, eagles, and buffaloes as well, even when the demand was wholly for silver and silver products. I really don't see much in the way of signs of it abating here in 2023. The real demand will come when the public wakes up, when the elephant wakes up and says, my God, you know, we had a 25% nearly drop in the S&P, or 22 or whatever in the S&P. Last year, the supposed safe part of our portfolio, the bond portfolio, is down 16% on the 10-year Treasury, the biggest drop in the history of the 10-year Treasury. So all in all, that 60-40 split that we see so pervasive in finance here in the West, 60% equities, 40% bonds, was a disaster in 2022. And with the way things are looking now, you know, do we see more of the same or even worse here in 2023? And if we see that, you know, for the first quarter, the first 2 quarters, at what point does the public wake up and say, my God, it's time to pull some money out of the traditional assets? And where do we put it? Well, you don't have to look too far to see the value you find in silver in particular. An asset that is depleting in nature, that has expansion in use cases dramatically in green, in digital, in electronic, all of the things that we need silver for in an asset that is depleting in nature, and has experienced a renaissance in monetary demand. I mean, you have to really try hard to not notice it. So do I expect to see the same type of demand in 23? I actually think there'll be greater demand, because what we've seen over the last couple of years has just been a reawakening of the hard money crowd, a slight expansion of the hard money crowd, but the real big wealth. Granted, we did a couple of orders, both of which were north of $50 million this year from two separate people. I mean, that's unheard of. So you are seeing an expansion into the mainstream. But the real mainstream has yet to wake up. And when that happens, I truly do believe, Patrick, that we will see fireworks in price, but also more realistically in inability to source products. People are too busy to open up the hood and look underneath and see the fundamentals. And, you know, what betrays the price and the rhetoric is the drawdown of supply off the major exchanges. The only people that have the ability to draw down copious amounts of silver and gold from the main exchanges are those that are very sophisticated and very well heeled. You have very wealthy, sophisticated players that are closest not only to the money, but also to the information. And they know what's coming. And so they are using the suppressed price on COMEX to drain the coffers, to front run what is coming next. They are positioning. The biggest money in the world always front runs. The biggest money in the world always positions when the rest of the people are asleep. You know, they should be talking about, when they're talking about commodities, they should talk about how the LBMA is at the lowest level of zinc or aluminum that they've ever had. 90% drawdown in zinc, a 75% drawdown in aluminum. At the same time, I see another article out of Reuters that says China claims they have 20% of the global aluminum stockpiles. Who do you think's buying all this stuff? It's moving eastward, and it's moving to strong hands away from the West, who suppresses price to make their currency seem better, and it's being used against us. When these commodities rally, in particular the monetary metals, it signals weakness in the currencies, frailty, if you will, the emperor wears no clothes type of deal. And I think the people will wake up when the price explodes, but the price will have exploded after the biggest money in the world has repositioned. And this is a game where if you are not a contrarian, I think ultimately you'll end up a victim. It's time for people to wake up and realize we are in the very late stages of this Keynesian experiment, which I think is going to end badly